welcome back to yet another Candid Conversations with a Housewife. I am your favorite housewife, Mrs. Ginny. And tonight, friends, we have an interesting show for you. I don't normally review a whole lot of videos over here. I know that on Flipping Tables on Tuesday night, that's often what we do, is that we'll watch a video, then react to it. But tonight I wanted to bring that over here because I was originally going to do, so on my home channel, I go live on Friday nights, and I was going to do like a pairing of these two. Last night I was supposed to do a review of someone reviewing and critiquing Baptist content. And then tonight I was going to do someone reviewing and critiquing being a traditional housewife, because those are two things that I am. I'm a Baptist and I'm a housewife. And so I wanted to hear and react to people's criticisms and see if they were valid. I did not do that last night on my home channel because I got derailed, and so I talked about something else. But I'm still going to be talking about housewife and traditional wife content over here. Because, friends, at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of times we in these spaces, we talk past each other and we're not actually listening to each other. And so because I am a trad wife, and it's something that not only I believe in, but it's something I believe that other women should do. I believe that that is the right way to be. And so I believe that that should be the standard. And so we're going to be reviewing women who feel the exact opposite. Women who are not just ex-housewives or trad wives, but women who say that that is not what you should do, that that is the wrong way to be, and that you are setting yourself up for failure. So interesting critiques that they have for that. And we're going to address it because, I don't want to give you guys faulty information. I don't want to just say things at you guys because they sound good or because they're trendy. I want you guys to be equipped and prepared with the best information that I can give you. And so we're going to review these videos. It's all one video, but it's different videos in a video. And so we're going to hear and dissect the criticisms that these women have and see if it's coming from a place of validity, seeing if it's coming from a place of authenticity, or if it's coming from a place of being bitter and, just women who, have a bone to pick. And because they had a bad experience, they want to project that onto other women and say, you shouldn't do that because my experience didn't go the way that it was supposed to go. And so you shouldn't do this either. We'll see how this goes. And so, David, if you could bring up my screen for me and we'll get this video started. So as you'll see, I'm starting the video a few minutes in. We're not going to hear from this woman because her audio is very low for some reason. And so it was really hard for me to hear. So I didn't think it would translate well for you guys to hear. And then some of the other videos are kind of hard to hear as well. But thankfully, most of them have subtitles or captions. And so we'll be able to read it if you can't necessarily hear it. But you should be able to hear at least most of it. And so the videos will be, hey, y'all. Hello, Milani. Good to have you. And I see A-Team. Nice to have you as well. Thank you. And Catalea, a very consistent, loyal viewer. Always wonderful to have you. And so Jason, yes, thank you. And EAE, yes, he's right on time, surprisingly. He must have just got off work. And Brother Daniel. All right. So we got a good group tonight. So and David, you can drop the link as well. And people who want to chime in what they're hearing, they can do that as well. Daniel, yeah, so I'm doing a split stream. And so if you want to see all the comments, you have to go over to Black Man Unfiltered's video of this, because what you're seeing is just probably you and EAE and Jason, because those are you guys over on my channel. So if you want to be in the big group, you got to go over to Black Man Unfiltered's stream of this, and that's where the rest of the comments are. And so, yeah, but we're going to jump right into this. If you can make it, if you can make the video big and me small, David, that would be good. So people can see everything in case they can't hear it. They can read the subtitles if they need to. But yeah, so let's jump right into this and see what it says.
With anything he says to do.
Why is trad wife content suddenly blowing up?
Because people my age that were traditional wives are getting divorced and realize that they threw 20 years of optional
Okay, hold on. Technical difficulties. Should I have restarted my computer? Okay, hold on. Let me refresh this. So that way we can, so it's not so choppy. Okay, I had it queued up, so I thought it would run smoothly, but all right, everybody, stand by.
And my opinions on my girls did not matter, and that I should just fall in line with anything he says to do.
Why is tradwife content suddenly blowing up?
Because people my age that were traditional wives are getting divorced and realize that they threw 20 years of optional, available, could have been energy into the workforce, into their future. They threw that away doing laundry and watching their kids. Now, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't trade staying home with my children for anything. However, I would have insisted.
Okay, so let's stop it right there. So hopefully you guys were able to hear all that. But what this woman just said is that so what they're doing is that they're stitching it. In case you're not familiar with how TikTok works, is that so a person can see a video and then they can respond to it in the same video. And so the main girl, she's like, "Why is housewife or tradwife content blowing up?" And so this woman is responding, and she says because they threw away. Notice the verbiage. Notice the wording, folks. She says that they threw away their valuable years doing laundry and watching their kids. Why would you say that you threw away years of your life watching your kids? And so this is exactly the kind of stuff that you can expect for the rest of the show. It's just insufferable, bitter women complaining that they had a man who left them or didn't work out for whatever reason, because they usually don't even go into depth as to why the marriage didn't work out, which I find very suspicious, because it takes two to tango, and so one person can't make a marriage work and one person can't make a marriage fail. And so yeah, she says that she threw away invaluable years doing laundry and watching her kids, and then she tries to qualify that because I guess she knows how bad that sounds when it came out of her mouth. And then she said, however, I would not what she says, I wouldn't trade that time for anything. Let's go back. I wouldn't trade that for anything, or I would not I wouldn't trade staying at home with my children for anything. But you would, because you're literally about to explain that you would have traded staying home with your kids to work in your field and to have those valuable hours at your career and not lose those tradable or those transferable skills. So you're a liar. So once again, I mean, so right out of the gate, this woman, she's saying that, oh, I wasted my time watching my kids because your kids are someone else's responsibility, right? It's someone else's responsibility to watch your kids for you and to raise your kids while you're out chasing a dollar because you're so afraid that your husband's going to leave you. And so this is exactly what you can expect, friends.
Staying home with my children for anything. However, I would have insisted on some sort of investment into my future, either by way of a 401k, an IRA, a home in my name, or I would have had to have some sort of side gig where I could have put that on a resume if anything happened to my husband or our marriage. And so people my age, women that are in their 40s and 50s that have raised their children, who have been traditional wives, are coming forward and talking about the realities of that. Because someone like my grandmother, who couldn't have left her husband no matter what, because she went from high school and her parents into being a stay-at-home wife and mother, she could never have left, ever. And
this woman
so
is trying to make it sound like that's a bad thing. Your grandma didn't have the ability to leave your granddad, and that's negative. I mean, just listen to these people talk. And so I always find it so rich and just so incredible that people will honestly get up on the internet and get up in public and defend divorce and say that there should be outs in divorce, like there should be the ability to get divorced. And it just defeats the entire purpose of marriage. And I understand people always want to run to these extremes of, oh, well, what if your husband gambles all your money away? Or what if your husband is abusing you? Or what if your husband is a pedophile? And for the most part, those are not the norms. These are not the main reasons why people are getting divorced. These are not the common reasons why people are breaking up their marriages. These are straw man arguments. These are exception arguments. Like Kevin Samuels used to say that that women they want to live in the exceptions and the possibilities. And so this is what she's doing. It's like, oh, if my grandmother, she could have never left and she wasn't be able to financially support herself. And it's like, that's what marriage is. Yeah, I don't understand what these people think about what marriage is supposed to be. And now we have this convoluted idea of marriage that's supposed to be, 50-50, and that everything's supposed to be split exactly down the middle. And that one person should never do 1 ounce of work more than the other. Or it's just, I think it's so crazy. And it's obviously not working, because no matter what people will say about the marriages of yesteryear, the marriages of the past that, were tumultuous in their own right, it's not like marriages today are any better. And it's not like marriages today are lasting a whole lot longer, folks. And so obviously there's a problem, and it's not being fixed by women just, being loud and proud and saying, I am woman, hear me roar. There's a deeper problem, and it's not being fixed by girl bossing its way in, out of the situation.
I, being 51, I am like one of the first or second generations of women being traditional stay-at-home wives who are coming out and saying, don't do this to yourself. And so trad wife content is becoming super popular right now, because what's happening is the trad wife is glamorizing staying home and being a homemaker and a stay-at-home mother, which again, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you talk about the fact that if your husband dies, you're screwed, like triple double screwed. I have a family member that if her husband died or left her tomorrow, she would be a stay-at-home wife, broke on her ass with 4 kids and no way to support herself. Or if he died, she's
okay. So I gotta stop it again. It's just so much fear mongering in such a short amount of time. And so, this woman, she's saying that, oh, if your husband dies, then you'll have nothing. I know a lady who has 4 kids, and if her husband died tomorrow, then she would be left broke and she would have nothing. Why have you gotten to the point in your marriage where you have 4 kids and you don't have life insurance? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because of how I was brought up, and literally both of my parents were insurance agents. And so they always have been such big advocates of insurance. And my husband has life insurance. I don't have life insurance because I don't work. So, I mean, I don't really, my husband doesn't need financial insurance. He needs like insurance that whenever I die, someone will come in and cook his meals for us. But, I mean, I find it strange that why are you married with 4 kids and you don't have any kind of final expenses set up for your spouse or for your family, even if it's not about your spouse, but what about your kids? So I find more planning. Yeah. How did you get to the point where you produce 4 children and it never came across your mind, hey, I should, open up some kind of trust or some kind of policy in their name or anything. I mean, just have a savings account, for Pete's sake. I mean, I do have that. My husband has life insurance, but I have a savings account where when I die, he'll have access to it. And so, I mean, something. I mean, good night. I mean, this is not an issue with being a stay-at-home wife. This is an issue of just of being a bad planner, of not being forward thinking. And that's not, and you can be a poor planner and not forward thinking when you have, both have 100-figure jobs. I mean, 6-figure jobs. So that has nothing to do inherently with being a stay-at-home wife.
Completely screwed. And for all of you out there that say, just marry a really good man, that's great and all, but what if you're sick of this really great man? What if he dies? What if he becomes like incapable?
What if you're sick of him? Oh, I'm sorry. I was almost under the impression that the vows that I said to my husband on the day that we got married said that for better or for worse, for sickness and health, for richer or poor, getting sick of your husband is not an excuse to leave him. Y'all, I mean, if only you knew how bad things really are. And I'm gonna mention this at the end, but I feel like so many women, they just project, and I guess not women, but just people in general, they just project their poor experiences and their poor circumstances on other people. And they want to say that, well, because it didn't work out for me, for my own, faults and lack of trying or what have you, it's not gonna work out for you. And you shouldn't do this because it's dangerous and it's harmful and it's reckless and you're going to be left with nothing, when in reality it was just their own circumstance and their own series of events that transpired. And that's not even necessarily the way it's going to be for most people, let alone all people. And so I just think it's incredible. What if you get sick of him? What? That should never even come to your mind as an option or a reason to leave your husband because you get sick of him. What does that even mean?
Of going to work. It's not that trad wife content is extremely popular right now. Everyone's being mean. What's happening is that we are the second generation of women coming forward to say, quit being so goddamn stupid and protect yourself. 50% of marriages end in divorce. And while he's making $100,000+ a year, you have no skills, no career, no resume, nothing except for kids and a dog and God knows what else. You live in an apartment while he's got his new 20-something in his penthouse or the family home. So good luck.
This is just so embarrassing that these people feel so comfortable to just get up on the internet and just spout this fear mongering. I mean, that's really what it is at the end of the day. It's just fear mongering, trying to scare these young beautiful women out of using their primary asset, which is their youth and their beauty and their fertility, for their own benefit. They want to tell women that use your prime. Oh, Ricky Williams, he says the dating market and the car market are the same right now. What does that mean? Does that mean that cars are overpriced and so are the people, so are the prospects? I'm assuming that's what that means. But yeah, I forget what I was saying before. But anyways, another point that lady made is that she said that 50% of marriages end in divorce. Well, that's only recently. I don't know if she realized that, but it was not always the case that 50% of marriages ended in divorce. Back when most women were trad wives, back when most women were stay-at-home wives, the divorce rate was not 50%. Isn't that ironic? And so if women were to get back in the home where they belong and fulfill their role and their duties, then not only would the divorce rate be lower, but women would be happier and more satisfied in those positions. And yeah, there will always be outliers. There will always be horror stories of some man who takes advantage of his wife, who was dutiful and loving and just bent over backwards for him for 20 years, and then he leaves her for somebody half her age. There will always be stories like that. The same way that there will always be stories of men who go out and sacrifice and burn the midnight oil to provide for his family, and then his wife leaves with some guy who makes more and takes his kids, and he has to pay alimony for a woman who's now living with a guy who makes more. There will always be both of those stories. But should we base our lives off of these rarities or these statistics? No, because we as individuals are not statistics. We're bigger than numbers, and we have the final say on how our life goes. We have the final say on how our marriage goes. And so I'm sorry for these women that they experience this, but as for me, like, that doesn't necessarily mean anything for me and how my marriage is going to go.
Listen, there's a lot of people in my life who think that I am an absolute party pooper, because when I see young couples getting married, instead of just saying congratulations, I have to sit down and talk about financial autonomy and making sure that the female is supported in the relationship as much as the male is. And how are you going to co-raise those children together? And what's the exit strategy? And that's not a particularly romantic thing to ask a young couple when they're about to tie the knot. But I really wish that somebody had had this
Yeah, asking about an exit strategy for couples who are about to get married is absolutely psychotic.
conversations with me. When I was 20 years old, I got married to a smoking hot Mormon returned missionary, and he promised to love me forever, not just till death do us part, for time and all of eternity. And he was a liar, but I didn't know that when I was 20. So I dropped out of college and gave up my job and had the babies and stayed home for 24 years of my life. And if you're new to me and you don't know what happened, at age 44, about 6 years ago today, I caught him picking up a 19-year-old escort. How do I know she's 19? Because that's what he had typed into the Google search. 19-year-old escort.
Uh-oh. Stand by.
Phoenix before he chatted with somebody on, I think it was Backpage, arranged a meetup, which I had caught on his phone. And
Yeah, I guess I should have restarted my
followed me up there the next night.
laptop. Sorry, y'all. Bear with me.
2 days after, my husband abandoned
Wasn't doing this earlier.
me and our and our 4 kids for a 19-year-old escort. And count, and it was all gone. Homes, my name hadn't been on the Mercedes that I was driving at the time that our one of our homes, my name hadn't been on our vehicles. My name was able to evict me from the lease, not even as a roommate, not even as a pet. He just canceled.
Okay, so this is once again something I find strange. Okay, I don't know if it's coming in clear for you guys because she's speaking kind of low. But she's saying that she was with her husband, I think she said 20 years, and he evicted her from their apartment, and he left her for some 19-year-old escort. And she says that she was able to get evicted from their apartment because she wasn't on the lease and her name was on none of the paperwork anywhere. Does that make any sense to you? Does that, I mean, so she's going to go into more detail later in the video and explain how a lot of the reasons why they did what they did is because they were Mormon. And so hopefully none of you in here are Mormon. So I don't think you're going to fall necessarily into that trap of being, I guess, quite as strict as they were. Because I think that there is you can overdo it. You know, you can always have too much of a good thing. So being conservative and traditional, you know, you can go a little too gung-ho with that. So I think that's why her situation was particularly strange. But why would you not have your wife's name on the lease of your, can you even do that? I mean, I didn't know you could do that. I mean, because my husband and I, we've only ever officially rented, like legally rented one place, which is the place where we are right now. And I mean, it never came up that my name wouldn't be on it. But I don't even understand how you can have a lease and not have your legal spouse's name on it anywhere. Like they don't know that you exist. I find that strange. And Trey is calling BS. He says she's lying. That's not how evictions work. So I don't know. I mean, you know, Trey, he knows more than I do. You know, he's a lot more well-versed because he's older. But yeah, I mean, that just sounded strange to me. Like, how was your husband able to kick you out and leave you with nothing and you're legally married? Okay. He says also, you can't just put someone out who has established residency in America. Some places simply getting mail to the house is considered residency. Yeah, that's a good point. Because she could have claimed to be a squatter. I mean, I don't know what year this happened, but I mean, even complete strangers, people from other countries can just come and live in your house while you're gone and set up their phone bill to come to your house. And all of a sudden now after 30 days, they have rights. You mean to tell me that you being legally his wife, that you got evicted and they couldn't do it? Bro, stop. They just want to just play their small violin for you and just tell you how sad it was and how mean their husband was and how he left them for a 19-year-old. And can you believe this? And the whole time it's cap. And there's always so much more to these stories than they ever let on. Because, you know, like I said earlier, that it takes two people for a marriage to break down. Because she says that she found out through his search history or something, or she saw it on his phone, that he looked up for 19-year-old escorts in his area. And so it's like, when you saw that, did you beg and plead for your husband to not leave you? Did you get on your knees and cry and beg? Please don't do this to our family. I love you more than life itself. I will do anything. I will do whatever it takes to save our marriage. Did you do that? Probably not. And a lot of women, they'd be like, I would never, I would never beg for my husband. I would never get on my knees for a man. I would never, debase myself for it. My husband, if he wants to leave, she can have him. But that's the wrong attitude, honestly. Trey says, so now that we know she's lying, I don't believe the story. She was probably hell to live with, so he cheated with the young woman. That's very possible. She probably, is a fib teller because she's obviously lying about this story. But Trey, he's a little bit more red pill than I am. And so I believe that even if your spouse is insufferable, that's not an excuse to cheat, because cheating is always wrong. Trey says that too much pride and ego to try to save their marriage. Yeah, and that's what most people, the right attitude to have if your spouse is trying to leave you or wants to leave, is to have the David Ruffin approach. Hey, don't get too proud to beg, folks. And I know that, it sounds funny right now to say that, because the picture of it just sounds so crazy. Because we never see people doing that. We don't hear people talking like that anymore. But I think that's the right thing to do. And so, I pray to God I'd never be in a scenario where my husband's threatening to leave me. But I would beg. I would say, please don't do this. Whatever I can do, because if your husband's threatening to leave you, or if your spouse is threatening to leave you, then things have been probably bad for a while. But yeah, just do whatever you can. Just try to hold on for dear life. Fight tooth and nail for your marriage. And unfortunately, we live in such a banana republic, and we live in such a clown society where a person can get divorced without the approval of the other spouse. At least in some states, I think. A person can get divorced with only just one party. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, folks. I might be wrong. But I'm pretty sure, hey, Lost, good to have you. But I'm pretty sure that at least in some states, a person can get divorced without the consent of their spouse, which is, I think, absurd. But yeah, and so we'll go back to the video. But just at the end of the day, folks, the official stance of Mrs. Ginny is that, if your marriage is crumbling, then do whatever it takes. I don't care how many apple pies you need to bake, how long you need to rub his feet, how long, you need to just sit and talk with your spouse. But it just needs to happen, because divorce should never be on the table. It should never be an option. It should be until death do you part, like you said, like you vowed, because you're an adult and you made a conscious decision to make a vow, and you need to honor it as well as you can. So we'll go back.
Canceled the lease. I was just some weirdo living in the condo that Jake had canceled, and so the apartment evicted me. I'd always kind of thought in my head too, like, being a homemaker gives me a lot of skills that I bet would translate into a job. So I right away put together a resume, talked about all of the work that I had done in our family businesses, and went out and started interviewing for jobs. And there was not a person in this entire world who wanted to hire a 44, 45, 46-year-old who had been a stay-at-home mom since the time she was 20. So my first and actually only job that I had after my divorce was $11 an hour working as an assistant in an elementary school classroom 4 hours a day. You did the math, $44 a day. The only reason that my rent is paid this month is, first of all, my TikTok followers are constantly supporting my content. And I have 3 separate jobs: sales job, furniture flipping business, and I'm still working my Mormon essential oils MLM. I work 7 days a week. I have no retirement.
Okay, so this is another thing too, which I find interesting, is that the way that these dynamics are set up in these what was I about to say? The way that these dynamics are set up, with these people and these families, is that, you know, she just said that only reason she's able to pay her rent this month is because her TikTok supporters support her. So her TikTok followers are sending her Cash Apps or Venmos, and she has 3 jobs and she works 7 days a week. Why don't you have any family? Why aren't you going to go live with your mom? Why aren't you going to go live with your dad? Why aren't you going to go live with your sibling, a best friend, even a acquaintance might let you live with them if they know your situation. I mean, I don't understand this. Like, I would never be in a situation, even if Mario totally lost his mind, left me, moved to Jamaica to go chase, you know, Caribbean women, then I wouldn't be just on the street. I wouldn't be, you know, destitute. I have family. I have friends. You know, and I know that she has more kids than I would have. I only have 1 right now. But still, you know, I don't understand this concept of your husband leaves you for a younger woman, or for any woman really. And that's, you know, very unfortunate. And then you don't have any support system around you to help you. Like, you can't go live with anybody for a while. I mean, I just don't understand that. And she doesn't mention that. And I mean, that would be my first option. Like, if Mario left me, I would go, you know, to see my mom. I would go live with my mom for a while. I would go live with my dad. If I had to, I would move in with my brothers if need be. I mean, you know, my best friends, like I have such a big support system. I have so many people that care about me, who would look after me, and help me get on my feet. You know, people that would give me a referral for their job so I could, you know, maybe work at their job with them. You know, people that would help me, you know, put a good word in for me for people, you know, say, hey, she's having a hard time. She's going through a rough patch. Is there a spot for her? I mean, anything like, you know, I just don't see this. Oh, if my husband left me, I would be on the street. That should never be the case for any woman, because she should have other people in her life. And if you, for some reason, have cut out all the other people in your life, that doesn't have anything to do with you being a trad wife. That has something to do with your other things that you have going on in your life. You know, like, I guess if her family's not Mormon, then she can't hang out with them. Yeah, Trace says that apartments don't evict without cause. Liar. Okay, so they have to give a cause. Sounds like she should have gotten on her knees. Yeah, she should have. She should have been begging for her husband. You know, I mean, you shouldn't be too proud to beg for what's already yours. Milani says the truth will never be televised. Shout out to Take Heed. Yeah, shout out to Take Heed. Yeah, these people, they don't really want the truth to get out. They just want to convince younger women to waste their youth. You know, and then women will say that, oh, I wasted my youth on raising my children. No, you're wasting it by working at some empty career. Jason says she still works in her Mormon something. Yeah, she said a Mormon MLM essential oils business. They didn't exile her, which says something. The cult of Mormonism, respectfully, not really, is brutal in their dealings. Yeah, Mormonism is objectively a cult. So you're right, Jason. And he also says that she has 4 means of income and she's complaining. I mean, I don't know. I mean, her hair, I mean, you know, getting your hair done like that, getting those hair dyed like that is not cheap. The house behind her doesn't look cheap. You know, her clothes don't look cheap. She's wearing makeup, you know. And there's another woman that will come up later in the video who has a lot of things like hair, makeup, tattoos. And it's like, those things aren't cheap. So your money's coming in from somewhere. But yeah, and so I just don't understand how people, they fall out with their spouse and then they have nothing. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I live in a family member's guest house that they could sell at any moment. I've only existed in the credit world for about
Oh, okay. I think she just said, hold on, let me go back.
Still working my Mormon essential oils MLM. I work 7 days a week. I have no retirement. I live in a family member's guest house that they could sell at any moment. I've only
Okay, so she says she lives in a family member's guest house that they could sell at any moment. Okay, why would they do that if they know that you're living there and that's the only place you have to go? I mean, still, this is crazy. She says, I'm living in a family member's guest house that they could sell at any moment. Why would your family member sell their guest house or sell their house knowing that you need to live there because you don't have anything? Ragnar says, she was so awesome, nurturing, agreeable, and feminine that he said, this is too good for me, and left her for an immature 19-year-old. Make it make sense. Yeah, that's the bill of goods that these women want you to believe, is that they did everything right. They were wonderful. They were dutiful, submissive, friendly, fit, cooperative, agreeable. And the husband just ran off for no reason. He just hated her for no reason. And I'm sure maybe that happens every blue moon. I mean, people are crazy. So, I mean, sure. I'm sure that has happened to somebody at some point in the human existence. Okay. But is that common? Is that the norm? No, friends. These women, they are not telling you the full story about the destruction of their marriage. And they don't want to tell you the full story because it paints them in a more negative light and they want to be let in.
existed in the credit world for about 4 years. So I can't finance anything. And it just kind of pisses me off that I went into my marriage thinking that I had a 100% success rate. I didn't have an exit strategy. I didn't have any way to support myself if things went south. And here I am. So I've been living this out on camera for the past 3 years and I don't plan to go anywhere. I'll keep you posted. Let's see how it ends. Would have been better if I had made different decisions in the beginning. And I wish that somebody had told 20-year-old me that a man is not a plan. Never has been, never will be.
So reason number one for not being a trad wife is the biggest one, and that's the lack of financial independence. Being financially dependent on a man for everything you want in life sounds like misery to me. Even if you're giving an allowance, the idea of not being able to buy or do anything financially unless a man gives you the money and the go ahead should scare you. Many people don't even make enough money to live comfortably on one income without constantly making sacrifices and living paycheck to paycheck, and I can't imagine what that must feel like with multiple children. When a woman stays home, she sacrifices her career and job prospects by not furthering her education and not gaining any transferable skills. And in the meantime, the husband goes out and he climbs the corporate ladder and he gets promotion after promotion because he knows that he has a wife handling everything at home. And re-entering the workforce after 10 to 20 years will mean starting from scratch, even if you have a college degree. There are certain fields like medicine or IT where missing even 1 year of work could set you back 5 years because of how fast things change in those fields. And if you don't have financial help to go back to school, you're looking at a minimum wage type job for years or working multiple jobs until you can work your way up to an income that can comfortably sustain yourself and the children. All this time, the man simply continues to live his life with his job and his career.
Why is trad life?
Okay, so the person that was just speaking there, that was the person who runs the channel. So this is from a YouTube channel called Life with Melanie, I believe. And so that was her speaking, and because she's giving reasons why she thinks that the trad wife life is bad, and so she said that. So she says that the number one reason why she doesn't agree with being a trad wife is the financial dependency on your spouse, and this is something I want to talk about. I think I have notes in my phone to actually do a whole stream on this topic. But I do want to touch on it briefly since she mentioned that, which is that it is healthy and good. Okay, so I want to be as completely clear as I can be. It is a good thing. It is how it is supposed to be that both spouses feel a level of dependency on the other. And the reason being for that is that that is what's going to motivate them to have that kind of attitude that I was speaking about just a moment ago, where if the other one tries to leave, then they'll freak out and start to beg and plead for their marriage because they'll feel like I can't do X, Y, and Z without you. I need you, which is a good and healthy thing to have in a marriage. you shouldn't feel like you need your spouse to live, like you'll die without them, because at the end of the day, your spouse could die or your spouse could leave you. Those are just possibilities of the world that we live in because things are not perfect. And so you shouldn't have just an absolute sense of dependency, especially if you're a Christian, because Christ is your end all be all, and Christ is your beginning and your ending. And so you should find your completion in him. But you should have a certain level of dependency on your spouse, because that is going to motivate you to act right and to treat them how you should treat them. Because if you feel like you don't need something, or if you don't need someone, then you'll feel a level of entitlement or resentment or bitterness toward them when you shouldn't have that kind of attitude. If you feel like you need your job, like there's only so much that a person will mouth off at their boss because they feel like they need their job, if they feel like they need their job. There's a lot of people who feel like they don't need their job and they're always getting fired or quitting, and they just get different jobs. But someone who feels like, okay, I have a really good job. I like working here. I like the work environment. I like the hours. I like the pace. I like my coworkers. I like the management. I like the pay. I like my job. They are going to treat that job with a certain level of respect and dignity and dependency. They're going to be like, well, I don't want to show up late too many times because I need this job. I don't want to, be too lazy or too lackadaisical at my job because I need my job. And they're going to have a certain level of respect for that job that people will act like you shouldn't even have for your own spouse. And so it is a good thing to feel like you need your spouse. And so women who feel like, oh, I could never rely on a man for income. I could never just rest on the laurels of, oh, my man's going to provide for me financially. That's a bad thing to have. And it's been proven to be a bad thing because when women got financial independence from their husbands, the marriage rate is when it tanked. That's when it became 50% divorce. That's when it became that 70% of women are leaving the marriages because women just all of a sudden thought like, okay, well, I don't need you anymore, and therefore I can leave you. And they stopped giving their husbands in that position of a husband that the respect and the reverence that they deserve. And so that is how it's supposed to be. If you feel like, if you're in your marriage and you're looking at your spouse like, I really, I feel like I kind of need them. Because I've looked at my marriage like that, where it's like, if push came to shove, I'm sure I could do something to make money to provide for myself. But I don't want to have to do that, especially now that I'm pregnant. Oh my goodness. I am so thankful for my husband that he provides and that he works and that I don't have to. And so I feel like I need him. So that attitude that I have of dependency on him, it corrects my actions to where I'm like, let me not say anything a little too crazy to him. Lost in translation, he says that Trey have a bad pookie. Oh, they have a bad pookie picker. Yeah, they do. And they always want to go on about women's intuition. But anyways.
Live content suddenly blowing up.
It's become a popular topic because women my age and older that have gotten divorced and thrown decades of their lives down the toilet, doing the laundry and dishes, they're trying to warn you. You and accounts like you are intentionally dancing around the point. We're trying to tell you why this content is harmful. And I sincerely hope that you listen. You are not a traditional wife. You are on the internet and you work. Those of us who are actual stay-at-home moms that were traditional wives and mothers, we didn't have that luxury.
So that's another point that I've heard before, is that these women online today, like the Nara Smiths, the Ballerina Farm, that woman that keeps popping up at the beginning, her name is SD Williams. All these different women nowadays who are on the internet talking about being a trad wife, that they're not actually trad wives because they're on the internet talking about being a trad wife. And they're popular, so they're making money from that information and that content. And so these bitter ex-housewives, they'll say, well, you're not even really a trad wife because you're making money, and that's not trad of you. Hello? Things like Avon and Mary Kay and Amway and Tupperware, they've been around since like the 50s. I mean, hello? Is anybody home? Women who make money are not trad wives? I mean, stay-at-home wives have been making money at home for decades. I mean, like, almost 100 years now. I mean, if not 100 years. I mean, there have always been women who have been stay-at-home wives who, help their husband on the farm and, were out there plowing the fields, helping contribute to the income of the next year's harvest or whatever. And therefore they're bringing in money, but they're still a stay-at-home wife. There have always been women who maybe ran a daycare out of their house and were bringing in extra money, but they're still a stay-at-home wife. There have been women who, I don't know, depending on where you live, you might bake bread or bake goods and sell those. You could tutor. I know so many women who've done that, tutoring, teaching lessons like piano lessons, violin lessons, out of their home or going to someone else's home and being a stay-at-home wife. You could work at a call center and be a stay-at-home wife. I mean, it's just so ridiculous that these women, they'll try to discredit these women online, saying that, oh, well, you're not really a trad wife. You're not really a stay-at-home wife because you make money. And the real stay-at-home wives, we have to fully depend on our husband for income. That's just never been a thing. I mean, there have always been women who did fully depend on their husband. But women like me who, I have a pet care business. So I take care of dogs. I just got a new customer today. And then I do my little YouTube thing, which isn't really pulling in any money. I get one cash app per week. You know who you are. And so there's that. But, I'm not making it a whole lot of money from doing this. But even if I were, that would not take me away from being a stay-at-home wife. And Lou, he says, brings up a very good point, that the Proverbs 31 woman is a helpmeet and still makes money with her hands. Yes, the Proverbs 31 woman that was written thousands of years ago was about a woman who was able to bring in money and still help her house. Jason says she has a computer, so there are avenues of income and had access to from the house in her pajamas. She could have been living the life from home. That's a privilege. The act of having to travel to work. Yeah. So yeah, and so these women that talk about, because this woman is in her 40s. So she was a housewife in like the 90s or the 80s. And to pretend like, oh, I couldn't have done something because I didn't have the luxury of the internet when I was being a housewife is such a load of crock, friends. Don't listen to these women. Like I said, they're bitter. They're envious. Their marriage didn't work out because of probably them being dumb. And so now they want to condemn all these new women who are coming up and doing it right and saying that you're not even really doing it right because you're not suffering enough. You're not suffering like I was. And so you're not really being a trad wife. Give me a break.
No 401k in our names. The difference between you and the people that you're trying to make content for, if it's even women at all, which I kind of doubt, is that they are actual stay-at-home traditional wives and you're not a trad wife. You make money on the internet and they don't. If they find themselves a single mom with no 401k and decades missing from their resume with no current skills, no money in the bank, and not even a car in the driveway, their outcome is going to be quite different than yours with you making money from content. For the 12 years that I was a stay-at-home mother, not working at all, I became completely irrelevant in my field of information technology. The technology advanced and I and my skills did not. I didn't pay into Social Security for those years. There's 12 years missing there. And my prospects in the actual W-2 job market looked like this: working in an insurance or IT call center, making not enough money to be able to feed my children. What if your husband dies? The other thing that you're not addressing here is the fact that, and this is what makes it quite tone deaf, many families right now have to have 2-income households. And when you tell them it's better to be a stay-at-home mom and show them all the glamour behind it and how wonderful it can be for your children, your husband, your marriage, you're reminding them they can't afford it. One of the particular things.
And so that's another straw man argument. This woman saying that people, they can't afford to have a 1-income household. They have to have 2-income households. And when women like me get up and talk about the glories and the benefit of having a 1-income household and the benefits of being a stay-at-home wife, then you're just reminding people that they can't do it and you're making them feel bad. First off, okay, that's just one thing. I mean, like if you have set up your life to the point where it would be very difficult for you to become a stay-at-home wife, then that's unfortunate. But that doesn't mean that I can't talk about the benefits of being a stay-at-home wife. That's just like, I'm very glad that I did not get pregnant until I got married. And I'm going to always sing the praises of the fact that I am a kept woman and that I don't ever have to worry about being a single mom because I did it right and I waited to have a child until I got married. But that doesn't mean that, a woman who didn't do that, she's trash and that she's garbage and that, she should just wallow in the mire for the rest of her life, but I mean, you just didn't do it right. I mean, you just have to accept the consequences of your actions. And so if gone to college like these women are advocating for, or, don't get married right away, go to college and build a career and always focus on you first. If you do that and you get, $150,000 worth of debt, and therefore you now feel like, oh, well, I can't be a stay-at-home mom because I have all this debt lingering over my head, then that's on you. You made that bed, so now you have to lie in it. And so women are going to try to advocate for that and say that that's good. And I'm going to advocate for my lifestyle because at the end of the day, all lifestyles have pros and cons. But the traditional lifestyle, the stay-at-home lifestyle, is objectively the best. And I'm going to advocate for that. And if people can't do it right away or, at the moment that they see it, then that's just on them. And Catalea, she says that there are so many side hustles that she can do to make money. Yes, but what her point was that back in the day, back when she was a housewife, they didn't have those luxuries, which is nonsense because there have always been things for a very long time to make money, not just now with the internet. And Trey says, and you could have read books and articles from home over those 12 years. Yeah, that's a good point, Trey, that you're making. She could have been keeping up to date to some extent with that information if she wanted to. Milani, she says, how are you wasting life cooking and cleaning? You literally have to do that for your well-being, married or not. Girl, stop trying to make sense of it. It's incoherent, bitter woman babble. Catalea says, drop shipping side hustles on Amazon is growing. Yeah. And, but that's the internet. And so she's like, the internet has given you the opportunity to have all these luxuries and we didn't have that. And that's just not the case. Lou says, folks act like maintaining a clean house and not starving the one you love is a chore. Oh, Lou, I don't know if you're married, but yeah, that is the attitude. I'm breaking my back for this man. Ma'am, all you did was put away the laundry. Please sit down. And EAE is talking more nonsense in the chat. Anyways, we're going to go back to the video.
Things that I take issue with in your content is the way that you tell women what to wear. And you even double down on it and say that your daughter will not be able to wear leggings. And you hope in so many words that your son would want to choose a woman who dresses like a lady. Content like this sets us back about 50 years. There might come a day, Estee, if you...
Okay, well, this is just like a minor side point, but I mean, she mentioned it, like I'll speak on it, which is that SD Williams, thinks that women should dress more feminine, which of course they should. Women nowadays, they're just so lewd and immodest. I mean, most women go out naked. I mean, literally by the Bible standard, a lot of women go outside, especially since it's summertime, naked. And so it's a shame. And so she says that you're setting women back 50 years. I'm trying to set women back 150 years. Okay, 50 years isn't good enough. I'm trying to set women back to when they actually wore clothes and were modest and looked nice and put together and brushed their hair before they came out of the house. I know it might sound like I'm calling the kettle black because my hair is undone, but I mean, hey, I'm pregnant, so give me some slack. But anyways, but yeah, I mean, there's just certain things that women today, I mean, they just look so unkept and they just look so disheveled. And they just come out in public like that. And I think it's terrible. And it's not just women. I mean, that's a universal thing. Like man, woman, boy, and girl. I mean, people just need to tighten up on how they present themselves in public. And she says that, SD is saying that she wants her daughter to wear dresses and not wear leggings and that she would hope that her son would want a woman like that. And I feel the exact same way. I'm having a boy. And so I hope that my son would be wise enough to not go after some woman who wears things that looks like they were painted on and that where anybody who just happens to turn their head can see every crack and crevice of her butt. That's not what I want my son to look for in a woman. I want my son to want a woman who's chaste and a virgin and respectable and godly. And leggings are ungodly. I know people don't really talk about that anymore because they're so popular. But wearing leggings as if they're pants, as if they're real clothes, is wicked because it's lewd. You got all this. You look like you're shrink wrapped into your clothes, and you could see every muscle and nerve in your body, and it's not appropriate. And if I had a girl, then she wouldn't wear that junk, and I would make her wear skirts and dresses. Trey says that the Bible tells women what to wear. Yeah, but I'm sure this woman in this clip right here, I'm sure she doesn't subscribe to what the Bible says, especially not the dress code of it. And Jason says, sets us back 50 years. Society has allowed any of us to say whatever without being corrected. Yeah. So many people just are so used to just saying whatever, and it's incoherent. And thank you, Lou. He says, congrats on carrying a future king. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
If you have children, where you're home with 3 under 3, little Timmy is sick, the baby's got colic, the toddler finger painted all over the walls, you haven't showered yet, dinner is burning, so you're considering dominoes, and you're going to look back on these days and these content if you don't hire help. And you are going to shake your head because, my dear, you don't know what you're talking about. And I say this with love. There will come a day where he will come home from work and the house will not be clean, dinner will not be homemade, and you will not be wearing that dress. If 2020 showed us anything, it showed us what can happen when an entire family is an illness and what happens to mom. I can tell you, I did not rest. All of our children needed to be fed.
And so this point that she's making really briefly is that she's a very big advocate of looking presentable, not just in public, but for your husband. Like, she's an advocate of, if you wear makeup, then refreshing it when you know your husband's on his way, brushing your hair, maybe taking your shower right before your husband gets home instead of first thing in the morning, things like that, and putting on something that smells good. And she's a big advocate of that, make yourself look attractive and desirable to your husband, a novel concept. And so this woman is critiquing that because she's saying that, there's going to come a day when you're not going to be able to do that, and your life is going to be really hectic, and your husband's not going to be able to come home to a clean house, and things are going to be just wild. Okay. I mean, this is not meant to be like the absolute hard and fast rule that anytime that your husband sees you, you have to be all dolled up. I mean, but this is just a certain, what SD is doing and what she's talking about is a certain standard that would be good for women to uphold, which is objectively true. It's not a bad thing if 9 times out of 10, or if at least the days that your husband goes to work, or whenever you can, you are trying to make yourself appealing to your husband. You are trying to, be attractive for him. If you want to look good for your husband, that's a good thing. And so if you brush your hair, or if you put on some lipstick before your husband comes home because you know that he likes that, and you want to look more desirable and tantalizing to him, then that's a good thing. And that's something that women should be telling other women to do, because it seems like, there are so many memes online where it's like, your girlfriend, and it's like a picture of someone who's really hot and fit, and then it's like versus your wife, and it's someone who's fat and lumpy and out of shape. And it's like, that's a joke, but it's funny because it's true. It's funny because people actually are living in that reality. And so that shouldn't be the case. Of course, when you're dating, you want to put your best foot forward because you are advertising yourself. And when you're married, you're not doing that anymore. But, your husband deserves to see you nice sometimes, when it's not even that you're going somewhere. You should want to look nice, even if you're just going to be seen by your husband. That shows that you respect him. That shows that you care about what he thinks of you. That shows that you value his opinion, and that you care about how he feels. Men are visual. And so if you want to look visually appealing to your husband, that means that you're caring about him and his specific needs. And so those are good things. And this woman trying to say that, oh, well, there's going to come a day when you can't do that. Okay, I'm sure there's been lots of days where she couldn't do that, where she was sick, or she just didn't feel good, or the time got away from her and her husband got home before she realized. I'm sure there's been lots of days like that. But the fact of the matter is that if you make it a priority, if you make it a habit, then more often than not, then you can look nice and cute for your husband, and he'll appreciate that.
Dishes needed to be done. My kids needed clean underwear. Messes needed to be fixed. And I can assure you, no matter how glamorous I look on camera, those were some rough days. When I was 6 months pregnant with my first son, I got walking pneumonia. I tried to look nice during that pregnancy, but there was really no way. And my second son, I had hyperemesis gravidarium. I'm not sure if you know what the feeling of being belly out pregnant, hurling over the toilet 4 to 8 times per day would look like, but I'm assuring you it's not going to look like that. The raw and honest experience of motherhood was standing in a shower the night of my C-section, staples in, gauze around me, and all I wanted was a shower. Skin hanging and sagging, my feet so swollen from the spinal that I looked like I had dinosaur feet, while my husband kindly washed my hair for me because it's all that I wanted. When you get older, and if you have children, you might start to understand that the most beautiful parts about having a family and motherhood and womanhood in general are the parts, indeed, that are not aesthetically beautiful. That if you build your bond with your spouse based on what you look like and being presentable and what you can give him at all times and the appearance, you're shortchanging yourself. Some of the most beautiful women that I know have been cheated on by their husband that to me look beautiful at all times and put together. So as a woman of experience, I can also tell you as an older woman that the women that I've known in my life that make such a big deal out of having a perfect and beautiful marriage are generally the ones whose marriages are the most messed up. They don't talk about it. It's like they're trying to convince themselves that things are going well when they're not. You base your marriage on how beautiful you look at all times. What about what happens if he doesn't find you beautiful like that anymore and attractive? Because right now, without a backup plan, without a job, completely submitting yourself to this man with no other anything, this advice that you're giving people, you're basically telling them that their ability to eat and take care of their own children will be based on whether he still loves you tomorrow.
Okay, so this is just a straw man argument that she poses, is that if you prioritize looking good for your husband, then that's the only thing that he's ever going to see you for, or that's the only thing that he's ever going to value from you. This is just objectively not true. You can look nice for your husband, and then you can present yourself to him. It's like if a man were to try to say that, well, if you give your wife little treats, and if you buy her presents randomly, then eventually that she's gonna expect that, and she's gonna think that you're just a wallet. And it's like, no, you're just showing your appreciation for her. You're just showing her that you love her and that you care about her, and that you love her, and you're doing acts of kindness towards her. And so to say that a man is only ever going to see you based on your appearance if you try to look nice for him is absurd. Jason, he says that that's certainly unique. Seriously, they had to eat. And then he also says that, yes, but that being the norm cause of laziness is ludicrous. I guess he was talking about the last thing that she said, that that if we that women should be more financially independent because the kids' ability to eat should not be determined on whether or not your husband still loves you tomorrow. Which is a very interesting comment to make, because there are a lot of things that depend on whether, I mean, your husband, he's betting on the fact that you're still going to love him tomorrow. So why can't you bet on the fact that he's still going to love you tomorrow? Milani, she says that they spend over $800 on Shein every day, but yet barely have clothes to wear. Isn't that Isn't that an interesting phenomenon, Milani? Oh man. And they can look good for everybody else. They can look good for their girls' night out and for date night and for, whatever they want to look good for. But, oh, God forbid that they actually dress up for their husband who comes home and provides for them.
Good luck.
Content suddenly blowing up.
Because people my age that were traditional way.
Boy, can I speak on this. Grandmother, stay at home. Mom, stay at home. Me, followed right in their footsteps. 1995, got married. 1997, had my first baby. 2000, had my second. 2004, had my third. no career, no education beyond a high school diploma. It is what I wanted, having no understanding of the consequences that I'm now facing as a result of that choice. All while my now ex-husband made me feel guilty because I wasn't contributing to the financial household, but yet wanted all of the things done at home as a stay-at-home wife does. He wanted both. And I didn't work outside the home. Then later, as my kids got a little bit older and in school, and the youngest one was like Mother's Day out programs and stuff, I would do housekeeping and anything to bring a little extra money in to our household income. But yeah, no education beyond the high school diploma, no effort to make any kind of career moves moving forward. And then fast forward to 2016, we're divorced. And I'm starting at the bottom with no job experience, even though I had managed a household, albeit sometimes the financial part was very poorly. That's a whole nother topic. And raised 3 children. And now I'm 49 years old and I'm struggling financially because I don't have 20 years of work experience on top of the most recent.
Okay, so this is what I was kind of mentioning earlier about how that other lady, she was talking and it's like that balayage in her hair is not cheap and the clothes that she's looking like she's wearing are not cheap. This woman talking about I'm struggling financially. Ma'am, you have makeup on. Those nails are not cheap. Okay, that was the job that I had. That was like my number one job I had before I got married. Is that I worked in nail salons. And so I can tell you that those nails that she's wearing right now are not cheap. Okay, tattoos are not cheap. And then, she has a house and then, because this audio is kind of low as well. So you might not hear it, but I could hear that there was a dog in the background because I could hear the collar shaking. And so she has a dog. Animals are luxuries. Okay. If you're financially struggling, you don't need to have pets. And so you got a pet, you got an armful of tattoos, you got makeup, you have a dumb haircut, you got long nails, and talk about you're financially struggling. Girl, bye.
10 years. So I should have 30 years of work experience. Don't have that. I have 10. Now my job is being eliminated at my current employer. I have 6 months. I have a retention bonus plus severance after that. And then I've got to find something else. In spite of the fact that I have been trying to get out of this company for multiple years because I have been so very unhappy in this role. And even moving internally in my company, I haven't been able to do that either because they want a degree. They want some type of college education on a resume, and I don't have that. Being a stay-at-home mom is both rewarding and extremely sacrificing. My girls, I was always there for them, got them to school, got them home. They rarely had to ride the bus, doctor's appointments.
And so just to take another brief pause here, this statement that she makes that being a stay-at-home wife is rewarding and extremely sacrificing. You could say that about literally any choice in life. I mean, it's not that these career women, these boss babes, that everything is a bed of roses for them and that they have never had to sacrifice anything and that they reach the end of their life and they're like, yeah, I made all the right decisions. I'm so happy that I put my career in front of having children and in front of having a marriage, and my marriage never had to suffer. My children never had to suffer. And everything was just gravy for my whole life because I had a job. That's just not reality. And so many women from that opposite end of the spectrum are coming out and saying that my marriage suffered. I wasn't there for my husband the way that I could have been because I was working and I was building my career and I was climbing the ladder, and my children suffered. My children don't want to spend time with me anymore. They don't feel close to me. They're closer with the nanny. They were closer with the babysitter. I don't have a close relationship with my kids, and therefore I don't have a close relationship with my grandkids. My kids don't want to bring their kids around me anymore. And so it's like there's pros and cons to every lifestyle. And so at the end of the day, I guess that's my main point is that, I think that women should be housewives. I think that being the trad wife model is the supreme model that is the most fulfilling out of anyone that you can pick. But at the end of the day, whatever you decide, it's going to have sacrifices. It's going to cost you something. I know that I'm sacrificing, transferable skills or, career time or, time in my field. There's information and there's techniques that are being developed in the nail world that I'm missing out on and I'm not keeping up to date with. And then, if I were ever to need to go back into that field, I would be behind. And I understand that. And I'm willingly making that sacrifice because I want to focus on my family. I think that is where my time and energy is best spent. And if you want to be a boss babe, and if you want to put your kids in daycare and have God knows who watching them and send them off to the public school system and have them be indoctrinated and turn them to Zimzers by the time they're 18 years old, then you have all the prerogative to do that. But don't say that, oh, I couldn't be a stay-at-home wife because that life is too suffocating and I can't be boxed in. You're going to be boxed in to whatever lifestyle you choose, okay? And so just people need to realize that at the end of the day.
Piano lessons, sick, I was home. Anytime they needed anything, I was their caretaker. Their dad was there. He was not a terrible dad. He was supportive as a parent. Although when I wanted to go do something for myself.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to pause it one more time. I'm gonna let it play out for a few minutes, but I gotta highlight this comment that EAE said, which is that one day after you die, your boss is searching for your replacement. And this reminds me of a story of a friend of mine who used to work at Walmart. And she said that one day that, because you know how like Walmart, they have the optometry section where you can get your eyes looked at and stuff and you can buy glasses. One day, literally, the optometrist that was on shift died on shift. He died at the office. And so, of course, they had to shut the store down and, close everything down and get his body out and all that stuff. And literally the next day, his job was on the Walmart website as available because he was gone. I mean, people still need to get their eyes looked at, and he's gone. So what they gonna do? Friend, stop thinking that these jobs care about you. Stop thinking that these jobs are the end all be all, because they're not. The hole that is missing in your family when you're off chasing this idealistic Sex in the City vision that you think is gonna be, what you want out of life. It's not real. It's an illusion. And chasing that, the hole that you are creating in your home is going to be much greater than it is in your workplace. Okay. That woman that was in her car, the one that had the really voluminous hair, she was like, I lost 12 years of valuable time in the IT industry. Ma'am, they don't care about those 12. If you had all 12 of those years and you stayed there until you were 65 or 70 and retired from that job, they don't care. The amount of impact that you've had on that company in that field is minuscule. The amount of impact that you've had on your family is astronomical. It is immeasurable. The fact that you wasted 12 years being a stay-at-home wife and poured into your children is invaluable, and they will forever be better for it. And it's just incredible that they want to say that they're wasting their time, they're wasting their life doing laundry and doing dishes and cleaning and taking care of her husband and cooking and changing diapers. When that is the bedrock of life, that is the bedrock of civilization, is to take care of your family. Yeah, Microsoft is going to come and go, folks, but your family is what needs you. And so I digress. I'm going to let it play out. I'm not stopping it so much.
And get out and have some fun with my friends. I was always, I got to stay home and babysit kind of thing. No, these are your kids. You're not babysitting. You're parenting. At the time, I didn't have that verbiage. I didn't have that vocabulary because I didn't understand that what he was saying was not okay, because it's what I had known all my life. My mom stayed at home. She didn't work outside the home until she was older. Then my dad died at 54 years of age and left her a widow. For the next 20 years, that woman struggled. So whether it's divorce or death, trad wives, we're in this economy, especially. Our parents did not experience the same thing that we're experiencing in the 80s. The job market, things were so much better in the 80s than it is right now. Yeah. So if you're going to be a trad wife, and if that's what you want, and again, that is what I wanted, but it's also all that I knew. And I did not have a college education. And for me to try to work and pay daycare, it was pointless because I wasn't making enough money to justify paying for the daycare. I was basically working to pay daycare is what I would have been doing. Because again, I was making just above minimum wage because I had no skills to even give me that higher dollar amount. And then I got married and had kids, and then I wasn't working. So, if you're going to be a trad wife, prepare Prepare yourself. I wish I had known then what I know now. I wish I had had people like me telling me what I'm telling you now.
Well, that part we can agree on. Hey, if you are going to be a trad wife, if you're going to be a wife, period, then you do need to prepare, because being a wife is a skill, just like anything is a skill. You know, being a good husband is a skill set that needs to be developed and needs to be prepared on. Being a good wife is a skill set. You know, you're not just going to walk into your marriage day one and know everything that it takes to be a good wife and be the kind of wife that your husband wants and that is going to have a marriage that lasts 60 years. And so, yeah, you do need to prepare. You need to prepare by learning how to cook. You need to prepare by learning how to clean. You need to prepare by learning how to shut the hell up. And so if you prepare to be a good wife, then you can prepare to not be one of these women in this video compilation, okay? Because proper preparation prevents poor performance. And so if these women had actually done the preparation like they're talking about, then they probably wouldn't be ex-wives. They would still be wives. And, you know, marriage has its ups and its downs, but they would still be married, which is, you know, what they need to focus on. And so, yes, friends, be prepared for any endeavor that you're going to take on in life.
Don't rely on your significant other to take care of your needs forever, because shit happens.
Reason number 2, I think that being a stay-at-home mom is a bad idea, is the unequal division of labor in most homes. In a lot of cases, the stay-at-home mom takes on the majority of household chores and childcare responsibilities. This can lead to feelings of resentment and strain on the relationship. A lot of moms also feel like they have lost their sense of identity because all they become is a wife and a mom, and they forget about their own interests and feelings and desires. The fact is that some men these days don't see much value in being a stay-at-home mom, and so the idea of helping around the house isn't something that he will immediately do, because household labor now becomes the woman's job. So when he gets home from work, all he wants to do is kick his feet up and watch football, and neglects doing anything else, like helping with dinner or the kids' homework or participating in the bedtime routine. And that's why a lot of kids grow up with fond memories of their mom, but not really much memories of their dad.
You may have noticed.
Okay. And so there was a lot that was said right there by the host. She said that the number 2 reason why she doesn't like being a housewife is because of the unequal division of labor, or household labor, I think she said, which is very interesting, because if the husband is working, and so I want to make it clear, like, there are a lot of households today where both parties are going out and working, they both have full-time jobs, and yet still the wife is doing the primary, lifting the primary bulk of the domestic labor. And I do think that that is unfair. I think that that is an imbalance. I think that that is too much on the woman, and that's not how that should be. Holding that thought, Young says she could have opened a small in-house daycare for about 2 families in the area that needed to work, and also looking for childcare. It would have helped her all the way around. Yeah, it would have. And then it would have created a sense of community with her neighbors. And then whenever she wanted to go out, she could have relied on them, and they would have built a really deep friendship and bond. And I think that would have been very good. And yeah, but then back to the division of labor. You know, there are a lot of women who are working and then still taking the bulk of the house care, which I think that it is too much. You know, that is an undue burden on a lot of modern women today, which is unfortunate. But if you're a stay-at-home wife, then why would you expect your husband to get off of an 8 or 10-hour shift and then wash dishes? I don't understand. Why would you, if you're a stay-at-home wife, expect your husband to get off of work and then mop the floor? That doesn't make any sense to me. That sounds like an undue amount of labor and burden on him, because even if he has like a cushy job, if he has a white collar job, he's sitting down most of the day, or, you know, it might be a slow day at work, so he got to sit on the phone and talk to you for a lot of the day. You know, even in a situation like that, he's still at work. So why would he come home and still need to do work? You know, if you're a stay-at-home wife, if you don't work, then you're not doing 8 hours of housework every day, every weekday. Okay, you're just not. All right. If you're doing 8 hours of housework a day, then your house is immaculate. You have the best food in your neighborhood, and you have like a blooming, bustling garden out back. You're making clothes from scratch. You're hand washing your clothes. I mean, like, if you're doing 8 hours of domestic labor, that's the kind of thing that you have. But most women are not even doing half of that. Okay. They're putting their dishes in the dishwasher. They're putting their clothes in the washing machine, and they're setting off the robot vacuum to clean up the stuff in the kitchen. And then they want to complain that the husband doesn't come home in full clothes. And so I find that to be ridiculous. Since we are talking about stay-at-home wives, I think that it's relevant to say that if your husband works, then no, he shouldn't have to come home and do a whole lot of work. If he wants to take out the trash for you, if he wants to put the clothes away for you, that's nice. That's an act of service, and that's great. And you should be appreciative of that. But to expect that of him, I think it's absurd. Unless you're sick. If you're sick, then he needs to pick up the slack because, you don't want to get dishes to start getting a smell or to have like a ring around the toilet just because you're sick for a week or two. And so I think in that scenario, he would need to pick up more of the load because you're down. But just as a regular, if you're a stay-at-home wife, then what are you staying at home for if you're just going to sit around and not do anything? So I think that that's silly. If you're a stay-at-home wife, then don't expect your husband to come home and sweep the floor. That's your job. You do that because he was already doing his job earlier.
That there have been multiple articles written about me recently and my ex-Mormon, ex-trad wife life. And of course, on April 4th, I'll be on ABC's Tamron Hall show talking about this topic. This article right here was written without interviewing me, but I feel like the author does a really good job of capturing the message that I'm trying to convey. What happened to me when the trad wife fairy tale came to an end wasn't my ex-husband's fault, and it wasn't my fault. It was a systemic failure of the Mormon church.
Okay. So she says that when my marriage came to an end, it wasn't my fault. Of course not. But she also says it wasn't her husband's fault, which is refreshing. She says it was due to the Mormon church. Now, if you've been around here for any amount of time, then you can imagine that I have no problem putting the blame on the Mormon church because I hate the Mormon church because it's a false religion. It sends people to hell. And so I'm sure that the Mormon church played a negative role in her marriage. And I'm glad that she's no longer Mormon. And, I love every time I hear people exposing and bad-mouthing their false religion that they came out of. So I think that's great. However, I will say that to say that the ending of your marriage is not the fault of you or your spouse sounds ridiculous because at the end of the day, it was you and your husband that were in the marriage, not the church. And so they played a part. I'm sure they played a part in it. But to say that it was not either of you's fault, it was only the fault of the church is absurd and sounds very typical of anti-accountability woman. And so she's about to kind of go into the fact of how she was Mormon and how that affected her marriage. And so let's see here, because I don't know if that's really relevant. Is that the end of the video? Okay, there's one more. So we'll do one more because this is her talking about the fact she was Mormon is what brought down her marriage. And since I don't think there's anybody Mormon here, and if you are Mormon, then get out of Mormonism as fast as you can because it's just a false religion. It won't just do damage to your marriage, it'll do damage to your soul because you're not believing on the right thing. So we're going to do this one last clip here. And we'll review that.
It all comes from in here.
Actually know a woman in real life that this happened to, and I know online we're seeing an overwhelming amount of women come out and say, hey, I was a traditional wife, I stayed home, my husband had control over all the finances, and now I'm a single mom, or I'm older and I have to work and I don't have any work experience. In my opinion, the risks just outweigh the benefits of being a traditional wife. Not only do I have no desire to be one, but I just feel like it's a risk I'm not willing to take. I just don't understand why any woman would let a man load her up with babies, keep her out of the workforce, and then not let her have control over any of the finances or not have her name on anything, not allow her to have any stability for herself. I just think not every man was meant to make you a traditional wife. And I saw a woman recently on.
Okay, so I know this one's really low. So, you're probably going to have to look at the subtitles or look at the captions if you're not because it's really low. So I apologize about that. But I find, so this is kind of what we talked about earlier, where it's like, oh, my husband kicked me out. He evicted me from the apartment because my name wasn't on anything. And it's like, that has nothing to do with you being a trad wife. That has everything to do with you being a fool. And like the woman who said her friend has 4 kids, and if her husband were to die, then she would have nothing. That's poor planning. That has nothing to do with being a housewife. And this woman is saying that, like, oh, I could never be a trad wife because the cons outweigh the pros, the risks outweigh the benefits, because I could never be in a situation where I don't have my name on anything, and that I don't have anything in my name. Okay, once again, I'm a stay-at-home wife. I'm a trad wife, okay? And literally, there's nothing that my husband and I own that's of any value that my name isn't on. If anything, my name is on more stuff than my husband's name is. I like when we set up all the bills are in both of our names. Our apartment is in both of our names. Our cars, a lot of the times when we get cars, it'll just be in my name. His name won't even be on it. It'll just be on the insurance. Like, his name won't be on the title because he's at work during the hours that the DMV is open. And I go to the DMV and put the car in my name, and it'll just be in my name. And so it's like, if anything, more stuff is in my name than it's in his name. And it's like, I don't understand this idea where because you're a trad wife, that means your name's not on your financial documents and the things that you own. I don't understand where they're getting this. This is a straw man argument to me. I guess this is where it goes with being a hyper conservative or hyper traditional. Where I don't know why a man would think that it's non-traditional for a wife to have the name on the lease or on the mortgage. His ghetto point of view says, what husband doesn't put his wife's name on things? That's such cap. Yeah, that's weird to me. I've never experienced that. I've never heard of that happening in my own personal life. I'm pretty sure all my friends, I mean, then again, I'm not questioning my friends like, hey, is your name on the mortgage, by the way? But I mean, I would just assume that the name's on the mortgage because, what if I need to pay it? What if I need to call the company and be like, hey, I'm making a payment, and they're like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm so-and-so, I'm my husband's wife. And they're like, oh, we don't know who you are. You can't make a payment. Like, that just seems ridiculous to me. And so I think that this is straw manning. I think that this is gaslighting, saying that if you're going to sign up to be a trad wife, you can't have any financial documents. You can't have your name on anything that you guys own. This is absurd.
On TikTok talking about her experience and saying that she never realized that her and her children being able to eat was dependent on whether or not her husband was still in love with her. And I have a very high level of confidence.
Okay, I gotta stop it again. Because this idea is being brought up again of me and my children's ability to eat is hinging on whether or not my husband will love me. Friend, you and your children's ability to eat, if it wasn't hinging on your husband, it'd be hinging on your boss. And is that a more reliable partnership to have? Is that a more reliable, stable position to have? Is that instead of relying on your husband, who is legally bound to provide for you and take care of you, you're just going to rely on your boss? Because people acting like that jobs are so secure and that jobs are the end all be all. Oh, if I have my own job, then I'll be secure. If I have my own job, nothing will ever go wrong. If I have my own job, then I'll just know for a fact that my next paycheck is coming. Are you stupid? Your boss could fire you tomorrow and think nothing of it. And then now your ability to feed you and your kids has not been thrown up in the air when you could have been relying on a man who loves you and it's probably not going to let that happen to you. Instead of saying that, oh, well, I could never rely on a man because, I can't rely on a man to feed my kids. First off, they're their kids too, hopefully. And so the husband is working to provide for his kids as well and for his wife. And he's going to have a sense of duty over you guys, and he's going to want to provide. Like, it's just so much fear-mongering. Like, they just want to scare you to the core of a man and of marriage, and it's just not necessary, friends. Like, men are not that scary. There are a lot of men out here who love and cherish their wives and their kids and are not just going to let them go hungry for no reason.
Is that if I were to be a stay-at-home mom or a traditional wife or whatever, that my husband wouldn't do me like that. Like, I'm pretty confident in that, but the only way that I know for sure is if I do it myself. I remember when I had our daughter, I was on maternity leave and I wanted a new car because we had 2 kids and I wanted a bigger car and I wasn't working. And he put a truck in his name for me. And I just remember how unnatural that felt. I mean, I was so grateful he did that for me, but I was like, damn, I really got to go back to work. That could be my PTSD talking from growing up in poverty, but I need to have my own. And I'm also raising a daughter, and I'm always going to tell her, make sure you have something for yourself. If you don't, you are stuck. Never let a man dictate whether or not you're able to eat. Make sure you have something for yourself.
Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to know what you think. Once again, thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you in my next video.
Well, all right, friends. So that's all for that. There we go. So that's the end of the video of, the reacting that we're doing. And then just that last point that she made that, I can only ever fully rely on it if I know it's coming from myself. Like she was saying that I can't fully trust on a man, but I can trust in myself, and I can know that if I'm relying on my own abilities, or if I'm relying on my own, efforts to provide money, then I can always trust that. Isn't one of the main things that they've been saying throughout this whole video is that what if your husband dies? Man, what if you die? Hello? I mean, this is so crazy. They want to bring out all these possibilities of what could happen to your husband. What if something happens to you? If you are providing solely for you and your kids, what if you die? What if you get sick? What if you get injured? And now you have nothing. And now you have no backup. If my husband were to get sick or die, there's a backup because there's me. And so I am the backup plan in the financial area. Just like how I said that, if you're a stay-at-home wife, then you should be doing the domestic labor. Unless you're sick, then your husband can pick up that slack in that event of that happening. And so if my husband was sick, if my husband broke his leg, if my husband had pneumonia, then I wouldn't put the pressure of him to make the money. I would try to make more money. Thankfully we have a day labor place not far from our house, and I could just go to the day labor place and, do that for a week or two, if need be, and pick up that slack because we're a team. There's both of us. But for me to have this delusional idea that I know that I'm going to be able to provide because I'm doing it myself, yeah, tell that to the millions of single mothers all over the country who are struggling to provide for them and their kids because they think that they can do it themselves and they don't have a man to help them. I mean, this is just so cockamamie. And the fact that we have the internet is such a blessing because we can see the opposite end of that coin, and we can see these alternate lifestyles in real time. So we can get off this video about why you shouldn't be a trad wife and why you should be a boss babe and get your own money and never rely on a man. And then we can go over to, ex-boss babe TikTok or ex-boss babe videos and hear all these women complain about how they wasted their youth and they wasted their fertility and they wish that they would have got married and had babies. And so, friends, don't buy the hype. Don't listen to these cackling hens, these bitter women, and who want to just dissuade you from doing what's natural. Because the fact of the matter is that the reason why the trad wife TikTok and the trad wife movement is becoming so popular is because it's natural. And so many young women, they're waking up and they're seeing the fact that, okay, I've seen this, boss babe mentality. I've seen the career woman in real time, women my age, because these are older women who were talking in the video mostly. And they were like, well, my grandma did it and my mom did it. And then I became the trad wife because that's what I saw. Well, a lot of young women like me and younger women, they're like, okay, well, I saw the career woman grandma, the career woman mom, and I'm not going to do that because I saw it and I saw that it wasn't good and I didn't like it. And yeah, and so people have all these different experiences and perspectives that they bring to the table, and so that's why at the end of the day, you just have to pick your bed and let the chips fall where they may whatever you decide, because no matter what you decide, there's going to be pros and cons to it. But like I will say, and I will stand on this, no matter what all we just heard about, I was a wonderful wife, and then my husband left me for a 19-year-old, and I was poverty stricken, and I couldn't do anything, and I could only make $11 an hour. Aside from all that, I believe that being a stay-at-home wife is the best place for the woman. I think that that is where she will be not only most respected and most valued and fulfilling her highest potential, which is so ironic because women will say that you're not fulfilling your potential being a stay-at-home wife. That is really where you'll be fulfilling most of your highest potential by being a stay-at-home wife or stay-at-home mom. But it's also the most fulfilling. It's the most happy. Women are happier when they're at home. Women are more satisfied with their life and the way that things are going in their life when they're a stay-at-home wife and stay-at-home mom. And so, but like I said, whatever you choose, you got to choose that, and you have to walk down that path. And so when I'm 50 years old and I'm, old and I'm not, as fresh and young and plump as I am now, and my husband, he might leave me. And I might have to eat these words, or I might have to look back on this and say that, it wasn't as rosy as I thought it was going to be. And so I might have to walk down that path, and I might have to accept the consequences of choosing to be a stay-at-home wife and choosing to have a bunch of kids and choosing to get out of the workforce. And I might have to deal with those consequences later on, but I would rather deal with those consequences later on than deal with the consequences of not ever getting married, or getting married and letting my marriage suffer because I'm chasing some career or chasing some ladder, or be a boss woman and not have kids or not have as many kids as I want because I'm working. And so, like the last woman that we just saw, the Black woman, she was saying that, the risks outweigh the benefits. Oh, lost in translation, he says, Ginny might want to stay prayed up. That's right. You got to stay prayed up in your life to, fight off the wiles of the devil, and that God will bless you. And I feel like, I'm trying to live a godly lifestyle. I'm trying to be a godly example. And so I believe that God will bless me and, preserve my marriage. But, whatever happens, whatever comes down the pike, I am willing to accept the consequences of the actions that I've chosen. And I think that so many women, they're just walking into things ignorant. Like the woman with the crazy haircut, she was like, I wanted to be a housewife, but I just wish that I had known all the options. I wish I had been more informed and prepared, which is fair. Because maybe she would have chosen a different path. And then maybe she would have just been as equally as unhappy with that path as she is with this, because some people just can never be satisfied. So that's another option too. So there's that. And, but yeah. And so I am still an advocate. I'm still very much an advocate of the traditional lifestyle, of the stay-at-home lifestyle. I believe that it is the best. And of course, it's the biblical lifestyle. That is the biblical model. And whatever the Bible says is right and true. And all God's people said amen. And so it would be the best interest for you. It would be in your best interest to adopt that lifestyle. Other people are going to do what they're going to do. And so just whatever you decide, you just got to be ready to walk with that and stick with that. If you want to be a single mom, because there are a lot of women who are choosing to be single moms, like Ebony K. Williams, is that her name? The one who's a single mom by choice. She went to the sperm bank and got her a test tube baby. She has to choose that. She has to walk down that path, whatever that may entail, versus a woman who is a woman who has like 10 kids by a man and she's a stay-at-home wife. That life is not always going to be rosy and idyllic. There's going to be hardships in any path. And so you just need to be informed and know that there's no perfect ending, no matter what. There's no perfect lifestyle. Every lifestyle has its ups and downs and its challenges. But there is a way that is the best and has the best outcome, which is the traditional lifestyle. And so, friends, I hope that you enjoyed tonight's festivities and enjoyed the information. We have a viewer who says, how old am I? I just turned 26 a few weeks ago. And so I'm 26. I got married. We're going into our 4th year. We got married in March of 2021. And so next year, we'll be celebrating 4 years. And so I've been married for 4 years and I'm about to have my first baby. And so I'm fully ensconced in this trad wife lifestyle. I'm fully in it, guys. Got married at 22, had my first baby at 26. And so yeah, I'm not just up here blowing smoke at you. I'm really out here living it. I'm in the trenches. And I can say that it has its difficulties. you do have to sacrifice. I can't get all the things that I used to get back when I was single and working, like I want to now. I can't afford all the things I used to do. I can't do everything that I used to do. Um, and so I have to make sacrifices. And that's just objective. And I can't have as many creature comforts or material goods like I used to have, but I feel like I have something better. I have a husband, for one, and I have a fulfilling relationship with him. And I do other things now, and I, I'm able to still, we're not in poverty. So I'm still comfortable, which is another thing that they always want to throw out. Oh, you can't live a comfortable lifestyle if you have only one income. That's extremely subjective. I'm sure there were some people that would come into my house and think, well, I could never be comfortable here. This is very uncomfortable. I wouldn't want to live here. And that's fair. But it's comfortable for us and it's good for us. And so, it's whatever. And so, yeah. Oh, we got Beak. I was wondering if Beak was around. He says he was watching from the bushes tonight. And so thank you, Beak. I appreciate you. Hopefully you heard when I gave you that little shout out earlier. But yes, friends. So if you're watching from my channel, then please leave a like and leave a comment after the stream ends. But please also make sure that you go over to the Black Man Unfiltered channel and leave a like and a comment over there. So that way he knows that he needs to keep me around and that people are enjoying the Fridays, candid conversations with a housewife. And so we can keep putting these out, and let me know if you want me to talk about a certain topic. I do take requests. And I appreciate all of you being here and being so active. And I look forward to talking to you guys again, not next week, but the week after next. So I went from monthly to now I'm doing bi-weekly. So I will see you guys again the weekend after next. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend and stay safe. And if you're on the East Coast, then stay dry because we've been getting a lot of rain. But I look forward to talking to you guys again very soon.